Hello, thanks a lot for having me here today. My name is Harrison Forsyth. I'm a PhD candidate in the history department at York University, and today I'm here to discuss how augmented reality is an ideal medium for allowing students and the public to engage with ancient artifacts, in this case, Roman funerary inscriptions or tombstones, in new and exciting ways. I was hoping to have a working prototype of my newest application here today, but it requires me to do a 3D scan of a Roman inscription that's currently at the Royal Ontario Museum, and I'm still need to do a whole bunch of paperwork in order to have access to that. So I'm going to have to sort of speak by analogy or through analogy using this PowerPoint. But just a little bit about my background before we get started. My background's in Roman archaeology, and I work on several ongoing excavations that take place in Spain and Italy. And I specialize in a process called photogrammetry. So that's taking a series of photographs and making 3D scans of the artifacts that we excavate and also the environments that we're excavating. So these are photorealistic in ideal terms, usually. And in recent years, because part of my duties as a PhD candidate are teaching, I've also taken an interest in using VR and AR as a teaching tool in the classroom. So I've developed several programs that bring the material that I scan in the field into the classroom for the sake of teaching students about archaeology. So some of the examples of this might include this program that I designed in collaboration with University of Victoria for teaching students how to interpret archaeological stratigraphy. So this is in the HTC Vive platform. I also created a mobile app that allows students to explore and learn about the Lucanian tombs at Rocca Gloriosa in southern Italy. So in this case, students can navigate the site, engage with the environment, and learn information about the contents of the tombs, the process of excavation, etc. I've also had students construct a Roman city using Unity 3D. I only gave them a 3-hour crash course in how to organize game objects. They didn't really get into the coding, but they were able to create this Roman city and present their creation to each other in virtual reality, discussing the context of all the buildings. So despite all of this previous work that I've done in using VR technology, I've now sort of turned my focus to augmented reality and how this can be used in order to teach ancient history and archaeology with 3D models in AR. So the goal of my current project that's in process is to create an augmented reality application that allows users to visualize, manipulate, and learn about Roman funerary inscriptions in new and exciting ways. So ancient tombstones are quite archaeologically unique since they both have both a visual and a textual component to them. So you don't only have the object, but you have somebody who wrote, this is why I made this object, and this is why it's here, and these are the people who are involved. So there's a lot of information that can be taken from one tombstone. So some of the features that I hope to include on this, or that I have to a certain extent in my early iterations, are to allow for a 3D photo scan of a Roman tombstone to be viewed and manipulated using a phone camera, and an optical reference so that you can place it on any surface. So that object would be attached to like a QR code, for example. They're just really easy to work with. Also, I hope to have points of interest on the tombstone, on the actual 3D model, that can be highlighted to provide details via a text overlay. So these would include, most importantly, a translation of the Latin text, information about the people mentioned, and also information about the world in which they lived. So this is taking specifics and then getting general about it so that it's more accessible to an audience of individuals who want to learn about this type of archaeological material. So all of this will allow for complex linguistic and visual subject matter to be accessible to students and the public. I have started experimenting with some of my 3D models using augmented reality with the Vuforia SDK. And here, this is the first 3D model I ever made, so please excuse its crudity. But in any case, so to a certain extent, if you're looking at a photograph, or even if you're viewing something that's in a glass case. So it really sort of breaks down And hopefully, in this case, it would encourage people to go to the museum and engage more with this type of material. So the funeral inscription that I plan on, in any case, as you can see, there's a visual element to it and there's a textual element to it, even though the textual element isn't incredibly clear. So since I assume that most people are the spirits of the departed, 8 years, 10 months, and Mark made this tombstone for him. So we know this is from the late 1st century or 2nd century CE. Also, you can learn a lot of, based on their names, we know that they're actually probably freed slaves. So this person is a first generation of, the first freeborn generation of a conjugal couple. And so that also brings up a lot of issues of the nuances of socio-political status and all of these things. Now, of course, all of these details require context. But what emerges here is a snapshot of a Roman family. And while many of the specifics of their life are unclear, the little minutiae, much of their experiences are actually rooted in general information that we know about daily life in the Roman world. And so in this respect, augmented reality is an excellent way to supplement this specific information with more of the general information that allows a broader audience of students to engage with funerary inscriptions. So this addresses a serious issue of accessibility on several levels. So using this as an analogy, if the app were finished, let's just assume that this is the 3D model and it's been a particular part of it's been highlighted. One could view the 3D model in their home or in the classroom using an optical reference, like a QR code. And they could highlight parts of the text or the object with a translation of what the text means and supplemental information about that. So in this example, we have the name of the deceased, and additional information is given about each of the deceased's names because Roman naming practices are very particular and completely different from typical Indo-European naming practices, which, again, is another lecture. So, for example, again, another area that could be highlighted, again, the invocation to the D manes. What does this mean? So this text overlay, imagine that this is on the camera of your phone, would give all of this sort of supplemental information about the religious significance of that, etc. Again, so those are the textual elements, and then there's also visual elements that could be commented on, right? So this could be what types of building materials were used to build the tombstone, artistic motifs, and overall the general design of the object itself. So what are the benefits of this? One of the main benefits of studying Roman funerary inscriptions in AR is you get a sense of immersion and scale that you wouldn't otherwise get from a photograph or an object that might not be generally accessible. And again, it makes artifacts more accessible, so they're viewable at home or in the classroom. And in other cases, a lot of museums tend to have a lot of their material tucked away in the basement. They can't put everything out. So this is even a way for museums to encourage people to engage with material by making the things that aren't available accessible to the public. It's also more engaging from a human perspective. There's something very emotional about reading a tombstone, no matter what era it comes from or what context. Same thing with viewing ancient materials. So in any case, that's sort of my pitch for this application that I'm working on, and I just want to thank everybody for coming here, and thanks for the opportunity.
Ha 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 ha!